Suffering Podcast. Your life rarely goes in a direction that you wanted to travel. While a passion pulls you into a certain direction, reality spins you into another. There is a big difference in doing what you want to do versus what you have to do. You chip away at opportunity, fighting to salvage your dreams. You feel the pain and the suffering of working towards what seems to be an impossible goal. The taste of success comes in small doses that tastes so sweet. Hopefully one day you have the freedom to pursue what your heart was built for. You let go of a job and you find a career. It never feels like work when you're doing something that you love. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming suffering and overcoming adversity, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. Of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to, when we're up to it. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, I am very honored to have a guest in here that I've been following for quite some time, longer than you realize, and that's Vinnie Morelli, but you don't know him as Vinnie Morelli. You know him as Mutz, Vinnie Mutz, and we're going to talk about the suffering of a dream, because you are able to do what very few people ever dream of being able to do, and that is actually following your passion. And I thank you so much for coming, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Love being here.
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police. We certainly don't trust anybody as podcasters, but we do trust the guys over at Toyota Hackensack. So do me a favor. Go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car, but do not forget to tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. So, Vinny, each week we take a question from our audience. This one comes from Stuffy7, and it's very simple. And I love this one. I think you're going to have probably one of the better answers in the world to this. It's, what obstacles stand in your way? You're a business owner, you're a father, you have a personal life, you have a professional life, you have a public life, and there's always things that keep you from doing what you want to do. So currently, what are some of the obstacles that stand in your way?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, obstacles are going to happen every day. Some days you have more, some days you have less. But I think it's how you grip and grasp that obstacle, and then how you come out of the end of it. If you kind of live your life knowing that anything could happen, something can go wrong at any point in time, and there's not so much preparing yourself, but there's many obstacles. I mean, weather could be an obstacle, right?
So especially recently, we're in the middle of this awful heat wave, so there's one of them.
Right, and that's like simple. Right, it's not like I'm not going down the road of like obstacles of like, chicken going up to almost $4 a pound, and you base your whole life in business around chicken and eggs, and then eggs are going up almost 86 cents an egg, and
wow, yeah.
you were making frittatas for a lunch special. It's $100 frittata. How do you charge $12 for a slice? So, there's the real day obstacles. There's the obstacles that are going to happen. There's like I said, the weather, which is something you can't change. So there's obstacles that are you can't change. So you just kind of have to. I think the best obvious thing that I've done with those obstacles is just take them straight on.
It's a good answer, because you hit on something. There's an inevitability in life. Obstacles are going to stand in front of you. So like when I was a cop and I went to work one day, I didn't go back the next day. That was an obstacle. I thought my life was over. I didn't know what to do. I was 39 years old. I had 2 small kids. I obviously can't retire. And I was very fortunate to get my pension and all that stuff, but it wasn't, my passion was gone. So then, what do you do for the rest of your life? There's your obstacle. Your wife is scared there, and she's, just hoping that her husband hangs on. There's an obstacle. And then, even with starting this show, it's do I have a message anybody wants to hear? How do I do it? How do I pay for it? How do I do all this stuff? And that's an obstacle you just keep overcoming. And then when I go out and speak, is anybody going to want to listen to me? Am I going to be coherent? Am I going to be able to land the plane? That's an obstacle. And here's the one thing that my biggest obstacle in my life sits between my ears. My biggest obstacle in life is that image I see in the mirror every single day. If I know that, and I fight on this constantly, some days I win, some days I lose. My biggest obstacle is myself. Mm-hmm. All right. I have to know that no matter what gets thrown at me, that I can do it. I am good enough. I am coherent enough. I am smart enough. And it's not being braggadocious or anything like that. I just have to know that those obstacles are always going to be thrown my way. And my biggest obstacle is going to be my mental fortitude in order to overcome it or to fall to it. And it's my choice, because the one thing I've realized after doing this show for 5 years is there is nothing that's impossible. And you're the prime example of that. There is nothing in the world that's impossible. No obstacle is too big. You just got to figure out a way to do it.
Right.
So Stuffy7, thank you for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. So, Vinnie, you've hit some milestones recently. I've had your Mutz.
Yep.
And listen, I'm going to say Mutz because I don't want to embarrass myself by saying mozzarella like I normally
You
would.
got to do the la mozzarella.
La mozzarella.
Yeah, you'll say it better that way. There you go.
I've spent a lifetime making sure my Italian wife hears that hard thing to hear. I say calamari. I say mozzarella. I say all those terms that are just like needles in Italians' ears.
Like chalk, right? The nails on a chalkboard.
Because if you go anywhere else in the country and you say mozzarella,
Yeah.
they're gonna be what?
Yeah, they don't know.
They have no idea.
No
Just
idea. Like
just like,
galamad. You can't say galamad. It's like starts with a G almost, right?
but that's like saying doing what you do is, what do you make, polio? Oh, yeah, you see? I was saving that one for you.
Talk about a dagger.
That's just like
Ouch.
right here.
If you pull it out, you're going to leave it in. My God.
There's a big difference between what you do and what everybody else does. And I think the main thing is the passion that you put behind it.
Yeah.
So, Vinnie, I for those people who do not follow you on social media, you got to go to Vinnie's Moods. It's you got some really good social media.
I do.
You just got visited by David Portnoy.
Yeah.
With
Great guy.
Barstool Media, which he raved about your stuff. I've personally tasted your stuff, and it is top notch.
Thank you.
But why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm just an average Joe. I call it South Bergen County, right? South Bergen County. We call it the Little Italy of the Meadowlands, where 8 towns, 9 towns, whatever it is, 11 towns that compass this area of the Meadowlands. Probably seen it on TV. The Goodfellas, they dropped a body down there. You got to get it at Sea Caucus, yeah.
That's where Clemenza grabbed the cannoli.
Yeah, that's the Clemenza grabbed the cannoli. I'm sure there's a couple other dead bodies out there for sure. But yeah, so I grew up very, small blue collar house. It was just me and my parents.
What town?
In Carlstadt, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Very small, half German, half Italian. Probably about 11,000 people live there.
So Bergen County's weird. Like, you have to differentiate where you are in Bergen County, because if you say the wrong thing, you're one of those rich kids.
There's a Mason-Dixon line in Bergen County, So if you cross 17 by Paramus, you start to get into those lower Bergen County towns. If you're from North Bergen, you push the nose up. I'm joking. So I come from a very small little town. My father was he worked for DPW, but he also made corrugated drums in a factory. My mom was a seamstress.
Corrugated drums?
Yeah.
Like
they used them for medicine and everything.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking the congos that they play down in the
islands. Like barrels that you could seal and even put like wet stuff in it. But Hoffman LaRoche, bodies, acid, yeah. Hoffman LaRoche used to be one of their big clients there on Route 3. But he had 8 weeks of vacation, from he was a local Teamster 560. My mom, seamstress, we used to make clothes, sew clothes.
Wait a minute. So your dad was a Teamster. Your last name ends in a vowel. Hoffa was the boss of the Teamsters.
He was.
And he makes corrugated drums. Is there something we need to discuss?
Listen, I'm not going to say my secrets, but Uncle Tony's always around, you know what I mean? But the funny thing is about those guys, like my uncle, and they all work together. Mm-hmm. So the corrugated was, the company was also called Greif Brothers. I don't know if but anyway, so these guys, man, I'm telling you, from 5 a.m. to 6, 7 o'clock at night, they used to hump, but they made good money. Right. I wasn't rich. I was average. Like I said, my father was blue collar. My mom was blue collar. I went to Italy every single summer. So instead of
your father provided you with a life that he wanted to give his kids. And listen, is your father first generation?
My father was born there. My mother was born there. I'm first generation.
You're first generation. So you see that in a lot of second generation kids where their parents just work their asses off.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of greenhorns, right?
Yeah, greenhorns, yeah.
A lot of people don't know what a greenhorn is.
Yep.
Greenhorn is somebody that came from another country, worked their ass off. And it seems to go with the Italians more than anything else. But they squeezed a quarter till the eagle screamed.
Yeah, they were good at it.
And they denied. And did your mother take care of the money?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was good. Yeah, my mom did all that. My dad didn't want to touch it. And, hey, listen, I always had a car. Mm-hmm. Right, I had clothes on my back. We had food on the table. Was there times that were rough? I sure think so, 100%. You know, my mom died very early. She was 64 years old. She was the glue. You know, we used to have people. It would be 100-something people over my house on Christmas Eve. My mom would cook like 5 a.m. So did
you have hearing loss from all those family gatherings?
No, because the good thing was I was one of the youngest. So the old people liked their wine. And they used to leave it outside, you know, especially in like Christmas because it was colder. Yeah. So they'd be like, "Hey, Vizhians, can you go get me a cup of wine?" I'd be like, "Hey, I'll go get it, no problem.
One for you, one for me.
One for me, one for you." By the time I come back, I might be a little tipsy, and not one of them complained. You know, they were all like kind of teaching me a lesson.
But the funny thing is those are the things you recall, right? Those are the things you remember. I don't know if you realize how fortunate you were because the majority of the country, the majority of the world did not have that same experience. I've experienced those big Italian gatherings, and Italian people are very good at that. I'm sure there's other cultures, but that's the one I experienced with my wife's family. But I couldn't. Oh my God, the people talking over each other. I was like, Jesus.
Fighting. You think they're yelling at each other. Meanwhile, they're just having a normal conversation, and they start talking Italian, and you're out. You know.
Well. So I never told them, so I can speak Spanish. Okay, so which means I can translate every third to fifth word.
Yeah,
and I can sort of grasp what they're talking about, but I never let on. I never reacted. When they said something I understood, I just sort of sat there and like, oh, okay, you know.
Kept your quiet.
Kept my quiet because I always wanted to figure out what they're trying to say.
What they're trying to say. Yeah. So I'm the same way in Italian. I speak, read, write, fluent Italian. And then I can speak and kind of talk a little Spanish.
Yeah. Some
words get a little chopped up, but if they go really fast, I'm like done. You know, I'm like, whoa.
Well, that's what you learn that in Spanish. Like that one of the first words you learn in Spanish is lento, slow, lento. Yeah. And they'll slow it down. But if you have a base in Latin, which I do, I can speak. I'm pretty decent in Portuguese.
Portuguese rough. It's rough. Yeah,
it's very close to Spanish. So you'll see that a lot.
Chopped up Spanish, I call it. Yeah.
I work with a lot of Portuguese laborers, and on their crews will be Spanish people, and they'll be speaking Portuguese, and these people will be speaking Spanish, but they understand each other.
Yeah.
So as you're growing up, though, and you're watching the work ethic of your father. You said your father was
tremendous.
Just go. Yeah. Your mother passes away. What did that do to your father?
Oh man, let me tell you. You want to talk about total decline. She was the reason why we went back to Italy every year, pretty much. Right, her whole family is still there. You know, whoever's left, probably most of my cousins and stuff. My father's whole side came here. So really, my father, his two brothers and two sisters, and one was still left in Italy, but she passed away. My mom died at 64. My dad was about, probably 30 years into his career there. He had an option. He had an option to actually retire early at 62. And he had to do that because he actually stayed behind to take care of my mom, who suffered from cancer for 5 years.
That's a man.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's a man.
Yeah.
You take care of your family.
Yeah. So you see that, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
So it hurt. It hurt him, financially, obviously. Less Social Security, less, pension money, stuff like that. But he was able to spend those last quality 5 years with my mother. Go back to Italy a few times, spend all that good time. And
whereabouts in Italy?
So if you know Italy, you know Naples, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Naples kind of extends a little eastward more. And then you have provinces, and one's called Caserta. It's actually called or defined as Campagna Vecchia is the area that I would kind of live in. So little towns inside of the province of Caserta, and my mom's town was called Sant'Arpino.
Sant'Arpino. It's black something.
Yeah, Arpino, it's a name, but the saint, most of those towns were named after saints. They were religious people. But my father was from a town called Dragoni or Mirana di Mondi. So they had a population of 500.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they probably had more goats than they had people.
But that had to give you some appreciation for the freedoms that we have here versus the and they don't see it as poverty, though. Or maybe they do. I don't think.
No, they were rich. That wasn't, to me, poverty is a word. You talk about obstacle, it's right, it's how you look at it. What's poverty? Poverty, who defines that?
We do, because of what we see on TV.
Yeah, but that's bull crap.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. If you have enough money to pay your bills, that's something I've learned traveling out of New Jersey. So that's an East Coast thing.
100%.
You go out to Western Minnesota, right? They don't care. The pace is different. As long as people have enough money to take care of their family, pay their truck, and pay their mortgage, they don't
get
care.
A 6-pack, right? Some moonshine, they're good to go, right?
They don't care.
Right.
We're here. We have the most out of most of the country, and it's never enough.
Never enough.
You just got to keep going.
Status.
You got to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Such a rat race.
Yeah, but it's just a slower pace,
Yeah.
And from people who have gone to Italy, that's what they say. It's just a slower pace.
What do they say? They live to eat, not eat to live, right?
Yeah.
So you just live off the land. I mean, we had a lemon tree. We had all of this stuff that we could just pick our own crops, make our own food. Fruit peddlers and other kind of food peddlers would take little trucks and drive around the town and sell their stuff right out of the back of a truck. So, a lady living in it, I say a lady, but a man usually, went to work. The lady would stay home. I'm not being piggish or
it's the way that
it's just the way as it was.
Women screwed that up. It's not your fault.
100% because they cook better. But anyway, the lady would just grab her food off of a peddler in the middle of the street, and you bought what you needed for the day.
Right.
Yeah, we go to ShopRite. I don't do this anymore. This is another big change in my life, and you talk about obstacles, right? And that's an obstacle that people see because you feel like you have to go to ShopRite and spend $700 and bring back all the stuff and stick it in your freezer.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
For what reason?
We have a car. We're mobile. It's not like we have to go, but we do it once a week. Most people, and then you take trips. Unless you're my wife, then you just keep going to the store every single day.
Exactly. Yeah. She's got it right because she's Italian. She gets it.
Oh no. No, she'll do one big shop and then just still go back. Yeah, still go back.
I forgot something.
Yeah.
But I think it's better to just go get food that you need for the day. It's more frugal.
And here's another thing: is you usually, when that happens, you eat better because you're eating fresh food.
Well, not only that, but you're most likely going to prepare it. Don't get me wrong; I'm not a hypocrite. I go out to eat a lot, but I have no time to cook for myself. Nor do I want to look at a piece of food.
That's all you're doing all day. I don't blame you. But when you went to Italy, here's a question for you: did they see you as the rich American?
They always thought we had money.
So I go down these weird YouTube rabbit holes, and this happened just today.
It's funny you picked that up.
There's a cut scene in The Godfather. Michael Corleone's over in Italy after he kills Salazzo. Yeah. And the cut scene is he's sitting there with his two guys, and the one guy just keeps going on, "Rich, tell me how rich America is. Tell me how rich America is." And he just keeps going on. It's not in The Godfather, but it is a scene that they shot, and it is, if you look it up on YouTube, you can find it. And they're sitting in a field, and they're eating underneath a tree. So they know, but be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a better lifestyle. I gotta be honest with you.
No, you just keep chasing that carrot. I don't know if that carrot's any good to eat.
Because you end up getting involved in something that you don't want to do. You get shoehorned into a place where you don't want to be.
Become a monster.
Yeah. So you move on. Was college for you, or you go right into the workforce?
College, man. I don't think I ever made it out of the parking lot. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't for me. School. I went to a technical school, actually.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I went to, it's funny. whoever listens to this will probably know who I'm talking about. But it was on Route 4 across the street from the Dover Business School, which I think is still there, maybe not. It was called Computer Learning Center.
Oh, they used to do the commercials.
Yeah.
I remember those commercials.
Yeah, I did that after I tried Bergen Community College, and that didn't work out too well for me. And then my father said, you have to work, go back to school. So I tried to work for a little bit, and then I just looked at my dad and I said, I want to go back to school. So he paid for me to go back to this computer learning center.
Well, the funny thing is being a child of greenhorns, you know, and that's not a to me, it's not a derogatory term. Nope. Usually they want their children. You're an American. This is what's great about America. You go to college. You don't go into the workforce right away. You go to college. You know, and you'll be able to earn more money, be more successful. It's not that way anymore, but it was. I don't know how old you are.
I just turned 50 this year.
So we're the same age. So we're of the same generation. You got finished with high school. You go to college. That's what you want to do. It doesn't always work out. College isn't for everybody. Our generation got pushed into college. And now you have a bunch of kids paying a bunch of money that they still don't know what they want to do. Yeah. The smart ones actually went to work. The ones who were conscious enough to know that, well, college isn't for me.
Yeah, or even a 2-year college just to figure out what you're going to do without spending all that money.
Why computers, though?
I think it was like I saw a TV commercial or something. I really wasn't like, I kind of was intrigued by computers. And so in Italy, which was funny, when I was like 10, 12 years old, and I used to go every year for the summer for 2 months since I was probably 1. But this 1 year that I was back there, my cousins already had computers.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking like 1986.
Oh, they had to write their own code and shit like that.
Well, you had a floppy disk and you had to run stuff off of it.
Man, you're talking. Nobody's going to understand what the hell you're talking.
A 3.5-inch double-sided density.
5 1/4.
Clip it and then yeah. But they had that in Italy. So, but in America, I didn't have it. So the minute I got home, I think it was a Commodore 128 or something like that came out.
You play a couple games on it?
It was Bruce Lee, and you would type a couple of words, and everything would fight each other or something. But it was pretty cool. But
the first computer I ever saw, and this is going to make people laugh, it was an Atari computer.
Yeah.
All right, we had computer lab in grade school, and you couldn't do anything on it except you type in quotes this big line of things, and you can maybe make a ball bounce across the screen. You had to pretty much write your own code.
Yep.
And now look at where we are today, where you type in words into a search engine, and you have all this information at your fingertips. Yet we're as stupid as we've ever been.
But we've ruined our own society.
Yeah.
We made things easy.
Yeah, you're right.
Why?
So without those obstacles, you remove these obstacles.
So that's a problem.
And nobody appreciates what they have. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody's looking for what they don't have. You know, it's the Garden of Eden situation, right? The tree of knowledge was in the middle of the Garden of Eden, and it was a place that Adam and Eve walked past every single day, and it was the only thing they couldn't have. But what did they want? They wanted what they don't have. And that speaks to modern day society. So what was success to you when you go to this computer school, you were intrigued by it? What did success look like to the young Vinnie at that age?
Wasn't too successful, let me tell you. They stuck me in a computer room, and I was changing tapes, when numbers popped up. It was freezing in there. I'm like, this is computers? I don't want to do this, So I started doing some monitor work, like where Samsung would do refurbished monitors. Mm-hmm. So I was like taking voltages out of like the big tubes out of the back. I was like, this is not for me. But the good thing about that situation was I learned about Korean food. But that's a whole nother story.
Was it a Korean girl?
No, it was actually a Korean company, and they bought lunch.
Oh, that's all right.
So it was $5 for the week, and you just gave it to the guy, and you would have lunch 5 days a week. Like, it was all Korean food, but I actually enjoyed it.
Food's food.
Yeah, and the person that owned the company that we were working for also owned the restaurant that they were making the food at.
They're putting you into indentured servitude.
Yeah, the sucky thing was this place was in a warehouse with no windows. So maybe if they put some windows up, I would have stayed a little longer. But I felt so like solitude. It was just too confined of an environment, like institutional.
You're a guy who, if your father worked for DPW, he was probably pretty handy, could do a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And now you're taking a complete 180 on what you've learned your entire life.
Yeah.
You're stuck in a room, no windows, Wow. I don't know whether I could do it.
I couldn't. I was driving myself nuts. I knew I needed a job. I graduated. I spent my father's money. Like I needed something. So, you know what they say about who you know, kind of thing. So, I went down the shore to work. It was listen, some of the best time of my life. I work at Martel's Tiki Bar as a bouncer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. So I bounced for. I'm from South Jersey. I grew up in Atlantic City area, and we bounced in Avalon.
Oh, that's right.
All right. So Avalon closed at 2. Then we go to Stone Harbor, which closed at 3. Then we go to Wildwood, that closed at 5.
Yep.
Yeah, that's some of the best.
It's pretty cool, man. I lived down there. You know, it was great. But
the best time of your life for many different reasons.
yeah, but my father's like, hey, I spent this money. What are you doing? You know? So I did this short thing for about a couple of years. We rented a house and we would go back down. And sure enough, a friend of mine just graduated out of the Army, 4 years, right? He was working at a company. He met us down there. We were talking. He asked me what I was doing. I told him that I had gone to school, for computers, and now I'm down here trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And he's like, do you want a job? And I was like, what? He's like, do you want a job? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, great. He's like, when you're done with this summer stuff, I'm going to set up an interview for you. I said, great. Who am I working for? And it was a very large technical company that puts people on site. I forgot the word is, but anyway, he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll set it up. So the summer ended. Long story short, he set up the meeting. He made me read this book. It was Windows 3.1.
Man, you were dating yourself. Are you ready to enhance your skills and provide the best care to those who need it the most? I'm Kevin Donaldson.
I'm Sherry Alsop. Our trauma-informed training is here to help, and we've been traveling across the country delivering this essential need to departments and organizations of every size, shape, and makeup.
We come to you with on-site training so you don't have to worry about travel or scheduling conflicts.
This isn't just a class, it's an interactive experience. You'll learn directly from subject matter experts who teach from a victim's point of view, putting you in the shoes of those who have experienced trauma.
This approach allows you to understand trauma on a deeper level and to better serve the individuals you work with.
We'll guide you through new interview techniques that prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring safety and empathy in every conversation.
And for those of you in law enforcement or other fields, our training includes post-credits, giving you the extra added value and recognition for your commitment to professional growth.
We offer references upon request to show just how effective our training can be.
Don't miss the opportunity to improve your understanding of trauma and make a real difference in the lives of those you serve. Get in touch with us today by going to sherryalsop.com and let us bring trauma-informed training to your organization.
Together, we can make a lasting impact.
And he's like, you got to read this book. This guy's going to ask you questions, all this stuff, So I get ready for this meeting and interview, and I read this book, and I couldn't read the whole thing, I did as much as I could. And
It's like stereo instructions.
oh my God, it was so boring, right? So I go to the interview. I meet this guy who I still love till today, And he goes, so do you know Tommy? I said, yeah, I know Tommy. He's like, how well do you know Tommy? I says, I know Tommy very well. He goes, all right, you start on Monday. I was like, wait, what? I was like, hold on a second. I'm like, I read this book. He made me read this book. He goes, what's the book? I go, Windows 3.1. He goes, I don't even know what that is. I said, okay, I'll see you on Monday.
So what was the job?
It was, I was a computer hardware technician.
So you would go in there and fix computers?
Yeah, so basically, I would fix like laser printers.
Okay.
Replace drums and toners and and
you were a
duplexers.
very valuable person.
Back then, yeah, I was a traveling like technician, and working for a very large firm. So eventually they put me on site though.
Okay.
And I worked at Rico up in Caldwell, where it was on Passaic Avenue.
Not bad. I almost worked there.
Did you?
I was just trying to find my way, and they were. The guy comes in, he's selling copiers. I'm like, I don't know if I want to sell. And I never did it because I don't know if I really wanted to sell copiers.
Yeah, but I worked in their MIS department. I was their technician for the 500 people that were working there.
So is that where you started to make a little bit of money, find your way.
Let me tell you, I was making buco bucks for a 24-year-old, 25-year-old back then. I think I was making more than my father.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Were you able to give your old man a little bit of cash back?
Yeah. So since the day I started working at a pizzeria when I was 18, 17 years old, I would leave money on my table, at my dining room table for my mother and my father. I would just leave it there. I wouldn't ask any questions. I wouldn't say anything. I would just, if I had that $100, I'd just leave it on the table.
Why? Why would you do that?
You know, I could say I felt bad, but as I get older, I don't feel bad anymore about things. Because obstacles are going to happen, but I felt that it was at least something that I should do or needed to do. It wasn't a payback, but it was more of like a...
Thank you?
Yeah, like respect.
Yeah. You were paying tribute to your father.
Yeah, I was paying respect.
But man, that is so rare because how many kids do you know just take from their parents? I watch kids just drain their parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, you love your kids.
Yeah.
You know, you love your kids with all your heart. You give them the shoes off of your feet.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're never going to tell them no until one day they're broken. But you actually turned it around and said, no, thank you. I hope more people live by that example.
My kids do it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they don't give me, I don't ask money from them, which is fine, but... You know, we suffer a lot. There's a lot of pain that goes on every day. And these two kids, my wife and my close family, they don't say no.
How did your kids pick up on what you did when you were young?
So I was very blessed selling insurance for all those years that I was able to have a flexible lifestyle. I never missed a baseball game, you know.
And that's a gift that you've given your kids. So I've heard these statistics before. Kids who have a parent that shows up often will be more successful.
Yeah.
And what is the reason for that? Because somebody believes in them.
Yeah.
I went the other way. My parents were always there, and I wish they weren't. But they were always there. So what kind of did your father ever say anything, especially later? Is your father still with us?
Yeah, thank God, man. He's 85 years old. He's
good for him.
He's an ox, man. He's good.
Has your father ever said anything about that money you left for him?
No.
Not a word.
No.
Oh, you need to ask him about that before, you know, he's 85 years old, before he passes, before hopefully he lives to 100.
Yeah.
You know?
I think this is a great life, you know.
You need to ask him about that because that's a life lesson. What it did for him.
Yeah.
You don't even know what it did for him.
I didn't, but I just felt like you had to do something. Like this guy used to anything I wanted a waterbed when I was like 16. Kev, I had a waterbed. I was like the coolest kid in high school.
I've slept on waterbeds before. It's not all they're cracked up to be.
Yeah, they're not. But my friend had one. My friend Scrappy. Hopefully he's listening to this. But he had one, and we had some good times. But I got one at my house, and then I was like the cool kid on the block. You know?
Make sure you ask your father on that one.
I am. I'll ask him.
So how many years did you stay in that field? The
computer?
Yeah.
So like 95, 96, all the way through 2003.
And then you transitioned into insurance?
Yeah, it was we'll just leave it as a family-run business. So kind of got tied into that, yeah.
Now, at this time, were you starting a family?
Oh, yeah. So
well, it's nice that you had the income to start a family. And that's the big myth with starting a family. I don't have enough money to start a family.
Yeah.
You never have enough
bullshit.
money.
What does that mean?
You never have enough money.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's that mean? Like, so you got to put a dollar amount on it? That's what your kids are worth? No, my kids are worth more than that. I'll give them my blood. I'll give them my sweat. I mean, what's that worth, right? You can't put a tangible number on that. But what about life lessons?
Yeah. But you've heard this before, right? You've heard people say that.
100%.
I want to have kids, but I'm not financially stable enough. Well, that's the big myth. You're never financially stable to have
Never.
kids. You have kids and you figure it out because when you're behind the 8 ball and you have no plan B, it's either those kids eat or they don't. Trust me, you make it happen.
You make it happen. You know, there was tons of obstacles in the way, especially when we were starting out and having kids. And my wife, my beautiful wife, you know, she was high risk pregnancies. We had 2 premature children.
Ooh. The whole time you're working in these fields, what in the back of your head, what was something that you always strive for? What was something you always wanted to do?
I always wanted to be a business owner. I I always wanted to be the guy running the president, like running the country, running the company, being that guy, like put the risk, and the onus of completing and making people better around you, right? Because I think what I learned in my sales career was that, like being a leader is something more valuable than just being a boss.
Well, so I've had both, right? I've had good bosses, I've had bad bosses. And here's the difference. A good boss will tell you what to do, or a bad boss will tell you what to do. A good boss will show you what to do, and then you follow.
Right.
And you do it not because you were told to do it, because you want to make your boss proud.
Right.
You want to do for him or her, whoever it may be. So what is that? What it was about wanting to be the boss, wanting to run a company, be a small business owner or a large business owner? The freedom?
You know what, Kev? I just didn't want to work in a factory.
I don't blame you.
I saw my father break his balls, his ass, come home, he's drinking a glass of brioche. You know what that is?
Yeah.
He's drinking a glass of brioche every day, to settle his stomach. He'd have holes in his shoes. He'd have his fingers broken. So I think the best lesson I learned from that was he actually made me work for him for 2 summers as an apprentice or what you'll call a part-time union member. So I was 18 years old working in a corrugated drum factory.
What was it like working for your father?
Listen, let me tell you something. I wasn't working for him. I was working with him. Yeah. But half the bosses were my uncles. So he called me, my one uncle called me sleeping on a bunch of boxes in the back. It was like my second year. And he looked at me and he goes, "You learned your lesson?" I go, "Yeah." But I worked. Listen, if you talk to any one of those guys that worked in that company when I was there, I was 17, 18 years old. I worked every single position down that assembly line.
And what did you learn doing the same job your father
I learned
did?
that I did not want to do that for the rest of my life.
And did it garner any respect for your father?
It made me really suffer inside because I found out how hard he really worked.
Yeah, and that hurts.
And that hurt even more than anything you can ever imagine.
Parents will do the strangest things for their kids. They really will.
I think it's about family, man. I think it's more about kids, but your family. You're good to me. I'm good to you. That's so important.
At what point did you start actively working towards becoming your own boss? Like, what did that look like for you? Did you have a plan, or was it just a pipe dream?
You want to know something funny? When I was like maybe like 10, 11 years old, I was the king fireworks. I used to sell fireworks out of my backyard. I can't get in trouble now. Statute of limitations, right?
Yeah, but he's Dudley Do Right in there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he might still come in there.
He might still come in. Yeah. I used to sell like bottle rockets and stuff. My cousin always was doing something, so he drove a truck. He came here from Italy. He was my mother's only cousin or nephew that came here from her side. He spoke no English. He had a really bushy haircut. He scared the crap out of me when he first came to America. But the one thing he showed me, so this was like, it's funny you bringing this up because now it's making me really realize that this was like pretty much drilled into my head. All right. This guy knew nothing, couldn't even speak English. He started a multi-million-dollar trucking company, right? Him and his wife, right? So that guy also showed me that you don't have to know anybody. You don't have to owe anybody. You just need to get up and work.
Some people have brass balls and they have no fear. So that's what keeps people from doing that, what you wanted to do, to be your own boss. Think about, well, you know this now, but think about a young man being your own boss, having all the responsibility, where you saw it as somebody being able to lead the company. Most people see it as, oh my God, all the responsibility is on me.
Yeah.
So fear keeps you from doing that. And fear just keeps holding you back and saying, not this year, maybe next year, maybe next year. And before you know it, you're an old man and you have mortgages and all this stuff and all these responsibilities. You have kids that need this, they need braces. Yeah. So all that fear just eventually kills your dream.
Right.
But you brought up a good point. You have certain people in this world, and they're rare, that just have zero fear. They're like, I'm going to do it, balls to the wall. And I'm sure there's times of doubt and there's times of anxiety, but they push through those obstacles. They get over those obstacles. And then they start a multi-million-dollar trucking company.
Yeah.
When was that time for you?
I'll tell you the exact moment. I know it right now. It just, you know what? I was working at Gucci America, right? I was working for Gucci. That was my I was working for Gucci. I was a network administrator and corporate, right? So they were good to me. Things started to change. I was a salaried employee. So it was like, hey, we have to do this over the weekend and we need you. It didn't happen a lot, but it did. And I was just like, oh. And then I was in charge of the stores. So like Hawaii could call you at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's only 8 o'clock there, right? So I was getting those phone calls. And I'm like, wow, geez, I just feel like I just keep working and working and working and I'm not making any more money. So I called the Bergen Record. Imagine this. Hey, this is like 2001. I said, hi, I'd like to put an ad in the paper. And they're like, what? Yeah, it's like, how do I put an ad in the paper? They're like, all right, well, you fill this out, you send us a check or whatever, and we'll put an ad in the paper. I said, fine. What's the ad for? I said, I want to put out that I can, computer services. So you can purchase, call me up. I'll come fix your computers at your house. I'll do it from when I get out of work at 4 or 5 o'clock. I'll do it for a couple hours and come home. And so I did. So I put out the paper. I got a few phone calls. And it was at the time where, if you remember, the internet was you had a modem in your house.
Yeah, it did.
No. Past that part. Past like the, hey, you got mail. Like past that one.
Oh,
it was
the high-speed cable modem?
Yeah. Comcast. Like they stuck a coax cable. They gave you this modem. And they said, here you go. You're on the internet. Do you know what that means? I don't think people understood what that means. I know what it meant, but you're connected to this internet. Internet was global.
It was revolutionary. Like, people couldn't wrap their heads. I remember the first time I found the internet. I was like, it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
I never went to the library again. You know that? That's a bad thing.
Well,
it's not a good thing.
You could have went to the library and used the internet, but...
Yeah, I could have, but
Right.
I never went to the internet anymore because I could do all my research online.
Library, right.
But it was probably 1995, 96, and I'm like, this is
this
is crazy.
Yeah.
All this information, and back then you could get anything.
Yeah.
Now it's much more locked down.
Yeah. Or do you even know what a domain name server is? Right. See, so these things, so coming from the industry, I understood that, but I don't think people understood that their computer is directly connected to the internet with no firewall, no protection. So their internet browser used to get junked up with cache and everything, and their computers wouldn't work. So
it was fun times because you could play jokes on people.
Oh, it was great.
You could put, I used to send out this email bomb. And what it was as soon as you opened it, 100 pop-ups all went all over your screen, and you had to click OK on every single one. There was like 100 of them on every single one of them.
People.
Yeah, or you used to be able to sign people up for those crazy porn sites. You put in your email.
Yeah. Oh man, just like signing up for the army, and all of a sudden they're getting postcards at home.
Used to
My
have
friends used to do
much
that.
fun.
They were
with that
so
stuff.
bad.
Yeah, but if you think about it, the danger of the internet was completely unknown.
Unknown.
It's on the computer.
People didn't understand.
People didn't understand any of that.
No. So that's when I was like, I want to run my own business, And then I, as much as we'll just leave it at that. But I watched my wife's father become very successful at selling insurance. So 2003 kind of made the jump. So and
now you're an insurance salesman. How'd that feel?
That was tough because there's no salary, there was no insurance, there was no benefits, there was no nothing.
You got a young family at this time.
I had my son Nicholas, 2002, so he's about 1.5. Yeah.
That's scary changing jobs, especially when you got young kids like that. I ran into that when I left the police department. The fear hits you, right?
Yeah.
So that fear, it's like, I have to do what I have to do, no matter. It's got to work out. There is no chance of failure, because if you fail, that means your family goes without.
Right.
But what I'm seeing here is you're following your father's blueprint. Work your butt off, couple jobs, do what's necessary. If I got to pick up extra work, I'll pick up extra work. I'll just figure it out.
Sacrifice, man.
Yeah.
Just made sacrifices.
So how long did you stay in the insurance
I'm
business?
still in there today.
You're still there. Oh,
Yeah.
you still. What's
How do you think I feed my my restaurant business? You think I'm making money there, Kev?
why Mutz? Why Polio string cheese? No, he doesn't make Polio string cheese. Why? What's it with this business that you started? I don't understand how the transition goes there. You just like took a complete about face.
I cooked for my family almost every night. I used to cook for a lot of people on a Sunday. I used to want to just make food, invite people over, have parties, just kind of feed people, make sure that the one thing is I always said, like, if I'm around, nobody will get sick, you trust somebody else to make you food. Not that you don't think they can, but, I get sick. But I just started, my parents made food in the house all the time. And we were jarring sausage, like dried sausage, called salsicha, right? We used to dry it in the garage.
But you understand what food is. For most Italian households, most American Italian households, food is leisure. Food is recreation, right? Food is...
Not my house.
Food is happiness.
Food is God.
Food is happiness. Food is what fulfills you. It doesn't just fill your stomach, it fills your soul. So it makes perfect sense. You're talking about those 100-person gatherings that your parents had, and you saw everybody having a good time. You saw your uncle. You saw one of your uncles definitely got drunk and did something stupid every time. But those are the memories that are burning in your head, and you're trying to recreate that stuff off your parents' blueprint.
Every day.
So you start cooking for your family, but how does that transition into your own? Because you still have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? How does that transfer? Like, what is it about Mutz that said this is something I want to pursue?
I think it's the joy that I bring to everybody's face when they eat it.
And it is amazing. It is amazing. But how did you learn how to do it?
So in Italy, there's places called Lettacini. All right, Lettacini means like small milk stores. So they're all over Caserta, which is known for Campagna, basically for La Bufala, which is water buffalo mozzarella. So the milk comes from a water buffalo. It's a little more creamier, tangier. So I fell in love with this mozzarella. Like every time I would go back to Italy, I'd be eating it left every night, anytime I can. People, they used to just look at me and think I was a freak, like I was just, it's mozzarella. And then you would come back to America, and some of those things that you would eat there weren't existing here. So you were like, Dad, like, where's that Mutz? And he's like, not here. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so what are we doing here? Why don't we just go live in Italy? Like, that's so much better food, He said it wasn't that easy. But my cousins are all carabinieri, which is like a state police. Half of them are Polizia di Napoli.
Oh, Carbonara? Is that how you would say it here, or is that something different?
So carabinieri is the word for police officer, like a state police. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about the pasta, what's that called?
No, the Italian. It's like the Italian secret police.
So yeah, you also have Polizia di Finanza, which is the finance police.
Okay.
Those guys can lock up anybody they want. My one cousin was in that department. They used to pull us off the plane before anybody else even. That we were like I'm telling you, I felt like dignitary when I was in Italy.
Really?
Yeah, my cousins would parade us around, drive us all over the country, take us to cities that we always wanted to visit, do things. My other cousins were taking us into the back of stores and pizzerias, and they're always locked and loaded with guns under their seats. Yeah, they were all cops. They were all some kind of cop.
And that's a dangerous profession in Italy.
Very dangerous.
You cross the wrong person.
It could be very bad for you.
The mafia there is much different than the mafia here.
Yeah, they act different. Yeah.
Yeah, they are much different. They will kill judges. Here, they're not so much. What year did you start trying to bring that Mutz over to here?
Yeah, so trying to recreate. It was about 2012, 2013. Another very good mentor in my life. This gentleman literally told me how to survive in an unknown region. This gentleman, Matt Berger, the soul of the earth, the most humble gentleman I ever met in my life. Like I feel like when I'm with this man, I could sell ketchup to, you know, like any, right? So he said, hey, come to Philly with me. And I was like, what? I drove an hour and 48 minutes each way just to go work in Philly.
To do what?
To sell insurance.
To sell insurance.
Yeah.
And what did Philly teach you, besides they got the best football fans in the world?
Yeah, we had some really good time. I learned more about food than anything. Philly's food is superior. It really is.
You want to know why? It's different water. All right, it's different water. So I grew up in South Jersey. I was in Philly a lot. And South Jersey bread's different than North Jersey bread, right?
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
You know the difference. The difference is the water. All right, you go down to South Jersey, you'll notice the bread is less crispy.
Yeah,
it's
white.
It's white.
Yeah,
and that's because of the water that comes out.
Yeah,
you can't find that anywhere around here.
Yeah, no. Obviously, the water around here is totally different.
Right.
But Philly's food was just remarkable. So you know, I just started thinking like to myself, I'm like, wow, why? You know, let's make tomato sauce like my parents did, right? So get my father, you know, on a Sunday, we make 1,000 pounds of tomatoes and char it up. Dad, let's make wine, you know, so then we make wine. And these guys would do this like every year since I could remember as a child. They were in my basement or someone's basement and they were making food and they were storing it, pickling it, drying it to use it for later on. Mm-hmm. So we never made, like when we make sauce, because we call it sauce, unless you put meat in it, then it's gravy. But so when we made our tomato sauce, they would go in the basement. They weren't opening a can of tomatoes. They were going in the basement. They were getting the mason jars. They were opening them up, and they were pouring fresh, what we call passata, which is the tomato being run through a food mill. Mm-hmm. And that's how we make sauce. So it was a Sunday afternoon. I purchased some curd from Corrado's in Clifton when it was still in the heyday. I brought it home. I'll be honest with you. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. I try to...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You learned how to make Mutz from YouTube.
Yeah. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. I kind of remember from, you know, being in Italy and how, you know, they were stretching it and like kind of like pouring water out and in and watching them kind of do it. So I was trying to like remember from my childhood and then putting like someone in YouTube and like trying to stick it together. And then I kind of just made it work and then kept playing with it.
Your first batch that you made, any good?
It was okay. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it's good, decent. We ate it.
How long did it take before you mastered it? Because you said earlier that you can just sort of figure stuff out. You know, you'll work at it until you get it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we would touch the mozzarella. I would pull mozzarella when I was a child in Italy. Like, you know, they would make me like play with it in the vat and stuff. But I eat more than I was playing with it, right? They'd find me comatose in the corner.
In a cheese coma.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pulling cheese since I was 12, but physically making it, you know, like as an adult, didn't happen until like 2012. And then, you know, it was just one thing after another. I would say a couple of years it took me, and then people started asking me like, "Can you make me some?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess so," you know. So
this is a hobby at this point. You never think it's gonna go beyond that.
So a friend of mine lived in Hoboken. I'd have breakfast with him every about 3-4 months because we worked in the same industry and we were trying to help each other out. He had a lovely wife. They lived in Hoboken. You know, we met at the diner in Fairview one morning, and he slips over a piece of paper like this, and I was like, "What's this, Justin?" And he goes, "My wife wants you to put your mozzarella into this contest." And I go, "What contest?" And he's like, he goes, "The Hoboken MutzFest." And I go, I'm not doing that. I said, come on, dude. I said, I'm not doing that. Like, who am I?
There's that fear.
Yeah, there's that fear, right? Yeah. And I'm like, Justin, I'm not doing this. He goes, no, listen, if you don't do it, I think she's going to sign you up, you know? So long story short, I think she did sign us up. And we get the email saying, congratulations, you're in the contest. So I'll never forget it. It was January 28th, 29th, something like that. And my kids... Remember the sacrifice, right? The pain, right? So my kids had a baseball tryout for Little League in January. Same day, same night. I had 4 tickets. They give you 4 tickets. They give you 2 tickets to come to the actual feast, and they wanted me to bring 4 pounds of mozzarella. I started fighting, like not fighting, but like on the phone, emails, going back and forth with this woman that ran the organization about me not coming. And she's like, "What?" She's like, "You're in it. You need to come." And I'm like, "I'm not going to make it." She goes, "Can't you just send somebody?" I was like, So I looked at my wife and I was like, "Hey, honey." She's like, "No." You know what I mean? Sure enough, her friend, thank God, her friend was with us. And she's like, "I'm in Hoboken every day. I'll drive. We could park at the hospital. I work there. I have a thing for the car. Like, we just go there and we could walk across the street," because it was at the Elks Lodge down in Washington. And so I think Christy convinced my wife to go. So I went to the baseball tryout to be with my kids. I put 4 pounds of mozzarella in a bag. I gave my wife and Christy 2 tickets, and I said, "Go have a good time."
What was the outcome?
4 hours later, she calls me up. She's cursing at me left and right and saying things that she really shouldn't and telling me that I fucking won. And she's like cursing at me because everybody's asking her how I made it. Where's he from? Where'd he get it from?
Your wife's got to think you're crazy.
Oh, well, I am, and my wife's a saint for dealing with me.
I say that about my wife. Our partners, when we have these dreams, right? Our partners give us a lot of grace. And we don't realize, we don't give them enough credit for the grace that they give us when we find something that we're passionate about. We're secretly passionate about, and they just sort of sit on the sidelines going, "Hey, whatever they want to do," until that day where you win, and all of a sudden shit gets real. Shit gets serious.
Yeah.
Where did it go from there?
Yeah, it really didn't go too far after that. I kind of stumbled and fell again. I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, "Well, what do I do with this?" And I was like, "Well, I'll just enter again next year." And Teresa from the Hoboken family, she's like, "No, we don't allow you to come back."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, no, we want to give it to a new winner and stuff." And I said, No. You got the wrong guy. I said, "You can't give me like a crown and then not make me wear it again. Like this is I'm an only child. Like this doesn't happen." We went back and forth for, numerous of times. And I think she just said I was batshit crazy and just said, "You know what?" She's like, "Just let him in." And I won multiple times after that.
When's it time to bring this to the world?
I don't know. There's that fear again, like, what does that mean? Like, why does it have to be that big? I don't know if that's the answer. I think what the answer is that I think it's about me. I'm not being selfish, and I don't want to throw this out, and maybe I waited for this time to do this, but for once in my life, I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm done. I used to be that guy to try to please everybody, make everybody happy, and do all this stuff. And I think what's next it's not the Mutz. It's not, it's what and how I can create food to bring people together.
So the funny thing is, the next point I was going to bring up, when somebody tastes your food, all right, you open up your restaurant. When did you open that up?
So we moved into the larger location. It was 2023, 24.
You watch somebody taste your food, and you see the look on your face out of something that you created, something that put your heart and soul into.
Yeah.
What does that do for your heart?
Well, let me tell you something. That really puts you you fall, It's like like a good fall. Like, it's not a bad fall. It's like you're falling and you're like dreaming about like what they experienced. Like how did that what I created? How did that make them feel that way? Like what was it? Was it the extra basil I put in? Was it, because you have to understand people's taste buds are all different.
Mm-hmm.
And some people like garlic. Some people hate garlic. Like, I put all these chunks of garlic in my roasted peppers, and I get people that actually will say to me, "Hey, can you pull out some of that garlic?" And I'm like, no, it's supposed to be there, So I don't know what, but it's definitely like I have to try to figure it out. And I think that's some of my downfall is I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to please people.
Well, I think you're doing a pretty damn good job because your name's everywhere. And even before I knew of the store and what you created, I would hear you. I would hear this name, Mutz, Vinnie's Mutz, Vinnie's Mutz, Vinnie's Mutz. And I just happened to meet Eric, and Eric turned me on to the place. And
Good dude, Eric.
yeah, he's a good dude. And that's what you're doing. I'm watching you on social media in real time create something that you just spoke about for the last hour. You're bringing people together. It's almost like a thing of pride when you go into Lyndhurst, New Jersey, and you go to Vinnie's Mutz and you eat their food,
Right.
and it's like an experience. That's what it is, right?
So that's exactly what it is. I'm creating experience. I want people, like you said. I think you said this before in the early parts of this podcast, that I had an experience that most people will never be able to have. Right. So how many people get to go back and live in Italy for 2 months out of the summer, when most people are going to Disney World, right?
I've been to Disney World multiple times. You forget it real quick,
right? It's like Epcot, okay, Soarin',
But I'll tell you what, there's places in Philly,
Yep.
that I bring my kids to because the food is an experience.
Correct.
All right, those things I remember. I don't always remember the places I go or the things that I've seen, but I remember certain experiences. I remember a meal that I had. A lot of people are able to communicate their love through food.
Correct.
All right. And if you can do that to one person a day, you're successful. I don't care if you're making money or not making money. Your wife will have I'm sure will have a different say on this. But
Well, she thinks I'm crazy. But
yeah, I think all our wives think that's what wives do. Somewhere behind every successful man is a wife that's laughing at him.
Listen, man, she stuck by every single. We suffered, man. I mean, we took some big blows and failed and failed and failed, and she never told me no.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're destined for success. That's why. So if you had a crystal ball, where would you like to see the restaurant go? Do you want this to be your full time?
Dave Portnoy asked me the same question. He asked me how many pizzas would it take for me to stop selling insurance, and how I responded was, and that means I have to stop selling insurance. And he said that was a big pickle. I don't know, Kev. I'm just trying to teach my kids a lesson. It's costing a lot of pain. I don't want to get into physical things, but I don't know if you're standing your feet that long, 12, 14, 16-hour days, and you're trying to prep and do things, and people don't show up, and you're dealing with payroll and all these other obstacles, and it's going to happen, right? And you just know. And I always call it an eatery. It's not a restaurant. I think restaurant's a very notorious word to make it seem like it's supposed to be too much work. I sell insurance. I don't think I'm ever going to stop selling insurance. That's really where the bread and butter comes from. I don't think I could ever do that. The restaurant business is very tricky. It's
75% failure rate.
Hey, credit cards are 80% of your business. There's, how do you navigate?
I'm going to tell you a story. It's one of my favorite stories in the world. So I have a very, very good friend. I've known this guy for 25 years, and I worked with him for a very short time. And he was a hobbyist magician ever since he was 7 years old. Close-up magic, cards, things like that. And he is fantastic with a personality and a match. His name is Will Fern. So problem with Will was he thought that in order for him to feel purposeful in this world, he had to be gainfully employed. And what gainfully employed meant to him was he had to go to work every day, punch a clock, get a paycheck at the end of the week. And he would always do magic on the weekends. That was his hobby. He'd make a little bit of money, but nothing crazy. And I'll never forget this. One day, it was before I was a cop, one day he comes walking into work. Him and I worked at the same place for a short time. And we were traveling everywhere. It was a fun company to work for. But he goes, you know what? I think I'm done. I was like, what do you mean you think you're done? He was my buddy. He's one of my best friends. He was in my wedding. I was like, what do you mean you're done? And he goes, I think I'm going to give magic a go. I said, give magic a go? That sounds crazy. So I'm sure it was very scary, very fearful. This man is now, so he's 10 years older than me, 60 years old, has been doing magic professionally for the last 30 years, making if I told you, I won't say how much he makes. If I told you how much he makes, your jaw would drop. He wakes up with his eyes open, never wakes up to an alarm clock. Downside is he's working while other people are during their entertainment.
The night hours, right? That's another thing with the restaurant, right?
But he never works a day in his life. He'll be the first person to tell you that. So what he did was he left a job and followed his passion, followed his dream, and found his life's calling. It's funny how that stuff sort of just pushes you in that direction, gives you a nudge when you need to. You winning those festivals in Hoboken, the Mutz Festival, pushed you in a direction that you didn't even see coming.
Right.
You know,
never saw it coming.
You never saw this coming. Now you got David Portnoy showing up at your restaurant, tasting your food, giving you an excellent review.
Hey, he's a good guy.
Creating these experiences over and over again. And I have to say your crowning achievements being on the show. No, I'm only kidding.
I'm honored to be here.
But
truly.
Think about the journey.
Yeah.
Think about the journey.
All by myself.
All by yourself.
All by myself.
All
by myself.
Off of this blueprint that your parents laid out, this hard work garners results. I think you should be ultra proud of where you come from.
I appreciate that a lot. If that could translate into numbers, that'd be great. But I think that's where you see it all the time, right? In this business, and it's the environment, right?
It will, and I'll tell you why. Because here's what sets you apart from everywhere else. You make food for different reasons than everybody else makes food. Other people make food to feed people. You make food to give people an experience. This is what we've talked about this entire hour.
Yep.
If you could see your life the way that I see what you just told me from high up, you would marvel. You would marvel.
I appreciate that a lot. I mean, that's coming from you, and
success doesn't mean money, right?
No, it does not. No, we remember poverty. Remember the poverty word? What is that defined of? It's somebody who defines that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not poor. I'm rich. I'm rich in love. I'm rich in family. I'm rich with the people that are around me, the ones that surround me, the people that stay with me, the ones that are loyal. I've had some betrayal in business. I've had many, many obstacles, and it's always about the people that stick it out with you, you know?
Some of the richest people I know are financially the poorest people I know, and vice versa. Some of the poorest people I know are the richest people I know. So, Vinnie, we're coming to the end of this thing. I want you to tell our audience where they can find you.
Yeah.
Everything will be listed in our show notes.
Cool
so if you miss it, don't worry about it, but give out all your social media, your websites, all that stuff.
Absolutely. So it's www.VinnieSmooth.com. That's Vinnie'sMutz.com. Facebook, TikTok. Our favorite platform is Instagram. So that's just Vinnie's Mutz, all one word, right past the Instagram. Come to 356 Valleybrook Avenue in the Little Italy of the Meadowlands, which is called the Lyndhurst, New Jersey. I have to say, all the police officers, firemen, the people that work in the town, and all those great people that come and support us. The community is amazing, and everybody surrounding me is just uplifting. And I'll take the blows, and I guess I'm just going to keep going, but I'm not stop selling insurance.
Not yet. And
not yet.
Not until you hit the global stage. So, Vinnie, we're coming to the end of this thing here, and you've traveled this very kind of odd, untraditional path of, working jobs and then doing this thing that you never saw coming. And along the way, there's been all these little bouts of suffering that you've had to overcome, these obstacles like we spoke about in the beginning.
Yeah.
And obstacles and suffering teach you lessons.
100%.
So I want to know what that suffering, especially the suffering of Mutz or following your dream or discovering your dream, what all that stuff has taught you.
I like pain.
You like pain?
Yeah.
It's the most unbiased teacher in the world.
100%. You learn lessons from pain. I think people fear pain, but now it's more or less like I think I need the pain. The pain is what's going to drive me to, I think, take better steps in life and better roads. And pain can teach you lessons, and without that pain, I don't think you can have those lessons.
If your life, if your business life was comfortable the whole time, I don't think you would have the same passion. I just don't.
I don't think you would, because you're always fighting that fight, and every day there's demons, and there's these things that are in front of you, and you know what just keeps me going is that look on that person's face, you know, and how they eat the food, and you know, my kids doing great, and my wife and my sister-in-law, and just great. My father, I feed my father from that store. I mean, you know, it's. I don't know. I don't think I will stop selling insurance. I say that again, but this
journey,
these people that I meet, Dave Portnoy, right? I mean, all that stuff.
You're blessed.
I'm blessed.
You're blessed.
I don't have to be rich in money. I'm blessed already. It doesn't mean anything to me. If I made no money, I think I would still do it.
Can I tell you one more story? And I think this will solidify everything. So you know who Indian Larry was?
Sounds familiar.
So Indian Larry was actually a criminal. He was a bank robber. White guy, but he looked like an Indian, so everybody called him American, Native American. Gets out of prison, becomes a welder. You know, it's pretty much what the only job he could get. And just on his free time, you know, sounds like somebody I know, on his free time just started building bikes, building motorcycles. And people started liking his motorcycles.
Jesse James?
No, Indian Larry.
Indian Larry, huh?
Indian Larry.
Okay.
So he started building these beautiful bikes, and they were works of art. And people started wanting his bikes. Led him to opening up his own bike shop in Brooklyn. And made some of the most beautiful riding bikes, not these show bikes, riding bikes. And he said this one thing, and I'll never forget it. He died in 2005 doing a motorcycle stunt, oddly enough. But he said this. He goes,
Sad.
If you do what you love, the money will follow. And I think that's your path right there. You do what you love, and the money will follow.
It's awesome, man. I love it.
Thanks for coming in, Vinnie. I really appreciate it.
You, man. Great to be here. Really an honor. Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of a Dream with Vinnie Mutz. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Sometimes a job is just a job. Obstacles often create fear. Parents create the blueprint for you to follow for the rest of your life. But most importantly, whatever you do in life, create an experience. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Clapper, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.